Felly, croeso i'r sesiwn nesaf. Warm welcome to you to the next session. So this is the e-sgol conference 2021, Wednesday, the 7th of July. And I'm delighted to introduce Kojo Hazel of Treorchy Comprehensive School, who is here to talk about the effective use of OneNote. If you have any questions you'd like to ask during the workshop, please use the question and answer feature on the right-hand side of your screen. If we have time, we'll put them to Kojo at the end. If not, we'll answer them and get back to you as soon as we can. So over to you, Kojo. When you're ready, off you go.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining this afternoon, if you're joining live or if you're watching back on the recording. My name is Kojo Hazel. I'm a PE teacher trained at Treorchy Comprehensive School. I also teach quite a bit of sort of public services, vocational subjects, and a little bit of computer science. And what I'd like to share with you today is a fantastic tool known as OneNote, which kind of saved our lives during the pandemic, and we're going to be using this going forward massively. So I hope to share you some of the uses that you could perhaps do within your schools, in the classroom, at department level, and sort of take this tool forward to help you guys grow within your schools. So a little introduction, what is OneNote then? So it's probably described as, one of the best Microsoft programs you're not using. When you open OneNote the first time, it looks a little bit daunting, but when you get used to it, it really is a powerful tool. You can use OneNote on any device. The OneNote pages we have here are free-form canvas, so they're never ending, and we use it within our school. We use it on a whole school level, department level, and at classroom level, and also teachers use it for personal use. And of course, you can use it face-to-face teaching, hybrid learning, and distance learning also, as we found out during the lockdown periods. OneNote is also integrated into Teams. So when you set up a class team using Microsoft Teams, you get a class notebook built in, ready to go. And a lot of what I'm showing you today is from the class notebooks that I use with my pupils. You can really embed any content into a OneNote, into a notebook, and most importantly, it saves you a great deal of time and a great deal of money, which was always a bonus from a school and teaching perspective. So I'm going to try and focus more today on the classroom use of OneNote. So before I do that, to give you some context, I'll quickly show you what a department notebook looks like. So on the screen here, you can see this is our PE department notebook. So we have our whole, all of our courses, all our resources embedded into a notebook here. If you imagine the notebook as sort of a lever arch file, where you have your sort of drawers here and your sections, and then your folders, your pages within those sections. So we have every single resource that we ever need, sort of the master copies in our department notebooks. If anyone needs to find anything, they will go into any particular section here. So we've got Key Stage 3 section, Key Stage 4, Key Stage 5. Within those sections are all the work that you would need, be it GCSE, A-level, BTEC, the master copies for delivery of the course, which really helps, especially when you perhaps have new staff coming to the school and you want to find resources. This makes things so much easier to upskill staff on the way things are delivered. If I can remember back to when I first started teaching at Treorchy, I was to do GCSE PE, and they said to me that go onto the school drive and you'll see all the folders for the lesson plans. And I went onto the school drive, and as you can imagine, it's just all over the place. There's no sort of structure to it, and I had a bit of trouble finding what I had to do. But with OneNote, the way we're doing now, we have 3 new staff starting in September, and I'm actually going to be showing them tomorrow how to access all our resources, and I will be showing them that through OneNote. And hopefully what I show you today will make it clear how useful OneNote can be. So that's our PE department setup on there. I didn't go through too much of it, but I want to show you more of a classroom setup. I also have one for my vocational course as well. The collaboration space. So a great tool within OneNote is the collaboration space, and it's just somewhere where you can, once you've set up your class notebook, the collaboration space allows you and your pupils to have access to the pages and to edit the pages. Okay, so we found this useful, particularly if there's any sort of coursework doing where the pupils have to work in groups or collaborate with each other to gather resources or to perhaps provide feedback. So the example you can see on the screen here is actually from a BTEC sport class where the pupils had delivered an exercise session and to the rest of their peers, and they wanted to get some feedback. So in the past, we would have handwritten questionnaires, give them out to every member of the class. They would then complete them. Obviously, it's a lot of paper, a lot of time, and hand them back to the individual who has to then sort of disseminate that analyze that data they get back. So now what we do instead is we use the collaboration space. We embed a Microsoft form, and I'll show you how that looks a bit later on onto the screen. So each pupil would have their name here. So my name is Pupil A. I put a link to my form, and then everyone in my class can go onto the collaboration space, click on the form, and fill it in, and I get that immediate feedback from my session. Okay, a great time saver and a lot easier for the pupils. Another use of this collaboration space, very useful if you teach in Welsh Baccalaureate for the group work with the the enterprise challenge where you've got to be working in groups. What we would do here, I don't have the example on here, but I would create a group. Let's call this group A here, group B, group C, group D, and you can lock the groups so no one else who's not in those groups can get into them, and they can use that space then within their groups to collaborate together. Because as you know, with Class Notebook, the pupils can only see their own areas. So that's why we use the collaboration space there. So there's lots of uses for that, and we've had great success, as I said, in our sort of BTEC, GCSE subjects, and definitely within Welsh Baccalaureate right across the school. So that's the collaboration space. We then have the content library. I'm not going to go into detail about content library is, but it's basically a place where you can put all your content. Students can look at it, but they can't edit it. It's that simple. And the teacher only section is where I showed you before, the departmental sort of master copies. I would copy the master copies from the department class notebook into my teacher only section, where only myself as a teacher or any of the teachers in the class team could see that information, and that's where it then gets disseminated to the pupils via the class notebook distributed pages. Okay, so this is more of a what you can do, not how you can do it. So you can find other courses on how to actually do these things. So that would be the teacher only section. So that would be full of all my resources. And what I'm going to do now is show you how I would use Class Notebook or OneNote in the classroom. So here is an example of our PE coursework. In the past, what we've done is create a workbook, and if you're giving out that workbook of probably about 30 pages to each individual pupil, obviously the cost of that is a lot in terms of photocopying, and those booklets get lost, and we have to keep repeating the printing process. So what we decided to do is move the whole process onto Class Notebook. So this would be sat within the teacher only sections. This is the master copy. So I've got all these different pages, which basically are like a workbook in themselves. And it's the instructions that the pupils will follow in order to complete their coursework. Now, with the use of the Class Notebook distributing pages, we could give these to every pupil in the class at the touch of a button. Again, a massive time saver. And what I found whilst we were doing this, so pupils would actually do this in their own time. So we're able to do the coursework outside of a classroom, again, to save time. Normally we'd have to do it sat down in a classroom, taking up hours of delivery time, taking it away from really the course content. The coursework is something that we're now able to do away from the classroom, and we can communicate via Teams and through OneNote. Something I found really useful, if you see this here, I won't click it now because it'll open up the video, but once I'd received some of the students' work, I was finding that they were making, very similar mistakes in particular sections. So this preparation page here, all I did was insert a audio file, which you can do here just by clicking insert and insert audio. And what I've done there is just put a simple file, giving some general feedback to give them a bit more structure to their answers, to help them sort of progress further to get the sort of high grade marks. All right, so you can embed audio directly onto the page. Is a great method of AFL, and again, a great time saver for the staff. I will show you as well further down the line some excellent embedding of tools like Flipgrid for AFL within OneNote. So that's my whole coursework setup there, and then what I've got here is an example of a pupil's completed work. As you can see, they've got the same pages we had before, and they've done their work on the pages. I've got some written feedback using my digital inking on OneNote, which you can do. I put this in here for an example. A well done sticker. You can add many stickers. You can create your own stickers, again, to provide some good feedback to your pupils. And what you have then is the ability for the pupils to complete the whole course. You can provide feedback along the way. If I was to be in a classroom and they were doing this in the classroom, I would be able to remain at my desk. I would be able to watch the pupils doing their work live just by clicking onto their class notebooks. So if someone has a question, especially now, it's quite useful because we're not allowed to walk around the classroom so much. I can access their work and give them feedback without actually leaving my desk, just by looking at their page on the screen. So we found this to be very successful. Once we completed, the examiner would come in, look at this coursework. I'd open up my notebook and they would be able to see that. And we had some great feedback for the sort of organization of the work and the ease of access. Okay, so here I have some examples from my vocational courses. So I do a lot of public services and work skills and life skills. This is from a digital lesson. So again, this would be in the teacher only section. This is my sort of master copy where I have created the information. And this is just an embedded YouTube video. Okay, very simple to embed a video, online videos, and you put YouTube video in, it can embed straight onto the page. Again, you're saving loads of time because people don't have to leave Notebook to go to YouTube, or neither does the staff have to leave Notebook to go to YouTube. Everything can be accessed right here, right now. And this is something that I would have done in the classroom. The pupils have devices so they can get on with their work during class time. This is the template that they would use. Follow the instructions, real simple. Distribute the page for them to complete, and then you get a finished copy. This would be the pupil's copy here. As you can see, it initials where the pupils have done the work for you to track what they have done. This pupil has also embedded a PowerPoint presentation that they completed as part of the task directly onto the page. And again, for me as a teacher, I don't have to leave this page in order to mark people's work. I can just open up the PowerPoint from the page itself. Whereas before, and this is where OneNote really comes into itself, is we'd have these all the work on the pupils' shared areas, and the best that we tried for them to help them keep their sort of areas in sort of good condition and in order. It's a real nightmare trying to find people's work on their shared areas, whereas here with OneNote, it's right in place, it can't get lost. And here we have an example. Some of you may have used Adobe Spark, which is now available on Hub. A pupil has done a presentation using the website feature within Adobe Spark, and as you can see, they copied the link onto the OneNote page, and it actually embeds directly onto the page. So again, saving you that time having to go back and forth. All work is in one place. And the same again with Sway. Okay, Sway presentations can be embedded directly into OneNote so that we don't actually have to leave the page in order to mark the work. Oh, don't want to open that now. Okay, so we've got the OneNote page, the Sway on the OneNote page as a visual, so we don't have to waste time going back and forth between different apps. And another great embed tool is Flipgrid. So I have a pupil here who's done a piece of coursework on Microsoft Sway. So there's the coursework, and to provide feedback, we use Flipgrid Shorts. You record the screen, and once I finish giving the feedback, I can then embed my feedback onto the page. And what it does, as you can see, There's no sound, but I'll play it now. You've got the feedback to the pupil. And you can see you've got the captions on the screen. Pupils really love this because they actually listen to this feedback on their phones, they tell me, and they make the changes on the work on their device. So being able to embed things like Flipgrid Short directly into the page on OneNote is been a real game changer this year. We've used it in so many ways around the school. For example, morning briefing. Now that we're not having registration at the moment, the heads of year now are starting to film themselves on Flipgrid and embedding it into OneNote, and then everyone is able to give out messages or show the video to the class at the beginning of the day. So it's huge potential there. It's something that we've just started using this year due to the lockdown. So we've got another example here of Welsh Baccalaureate. This might be of interest to some of you because a lot of us have to deliver Welsh Baccalaureate as well. So I've got the Key Stage 4 Enterprise Challenge here. Again, just broken down, I'm changing things around here, broken down into all the skills, all the tasks. And the beauty as well of OneNote is that you can, if you say you have a controlled assessment where you've got a set amount of time, you can give out the work and then you can set it to lock at a certain period, after a certain time, so they can't go back in and edit their work, which is a great tool as well, certainly if you're doing any controlled assessment tasks. So here we've got the whole Enterprise Challenge setup. Okay, I've got all the documents that you need embedded. If they need PowerPoint to help them, if they need Word documents, there's Word documents there. And when it's finished, I have a completed challenge, as would be sent to the external examiner. In the past, we would have either written these or scanned them or printed them out and sent them by post. Now what we have to do is quite simply complete here on OneNote. So we've got our completed documents and we just send to PDF, and then we email the PDF across. Again, saving money and saving time. For any of you delivering BTEC courses, and whilst I'm talking, obviously I'm talking from a sort of PE and vocational background. Any of this, or what I'm talking about here, can be embedded into any subject, and it has been across our school. Okay, before the sort of pandemic, a few of the departments were using it, but now pretty much whole school, everyone is buying into OneNote and as powerful as it can be. So when we went into lockdown, initially, let's say, there was a big scramble to get work online, and fortunately for our department, we'd already had everything on OneNote, and with our class teams, we were simply able to make that adjustment really quickly because we didn't have to create any resources. The people just carried on doing what they've been doing as normal. So this here is an example of a BTEC unit. As you know, if you are familiar with BTECs, they are very sort of admin heavy. There's lots of information, lots of paper. You've got the briefs, you've got the preparation sheets, you've got declaration sheets, you've got everything, all the information that the pupils will need. So I put this into, again, OneNote in the teacher only section. So I've got a whole unit there, and what I would have is every unit in the course like set up like this, ready to go with the same order so pupils are used to it and staff can find things very easily. These are my instructions to the pupils. You've got the brief on there, for example, preparation work, and then they go and complete their assignment work on the blank page. And then very much like the Welsh Baccalaureate, pupils complete their work. You've got all the documentation that the exam board needs for any external assessments. Okay, the pupils work there with the marking at the bottom. So this again would be sent off as a PDF, as opposed to before. You can imagine the amount of paper this would be if we had to print this off and send it off like we used to. Again, a real game changer in terms of saving time and saving money. So that's how I would use OneNote in the classroom. So where I've got a device and all the pupils have a device, but that's not always the case. Some subjects don't have any access to ICT all the time. And I'm certainly in that situation when I teach GCSE PE within the classroom. So I've got an example here of how I use OneNote with my GCSE course, and this can be transferred to any subject, of course, for you to use. So again, we set up the course content. So I've got all my lessons for this unit here, and I also have the textbook. And what I would do is I will share this with all pupils, so that whenever I deliver a lesson, after that lesson gets shared with the pupils so that they can access it at any time. So it's brilliant if you've got people who wasn't able to attend or didn't quite finish the work from the lesson. They can then at home access the work from their phone, from the device, to complete in their books. Got a real success story from 2 years ago. We had a student wasn't able to attend for the majority of year 11, and fortunately for us, we found OneNote at the time, and she was able to access all the resources, all the revision resources, past papers and lessons through OneNote, and also ask questions through OneNote to the teachers. And she was able to successfully pass the course, which is quite an achievement. And I think that is down to the brilliance of OneNote itself. So I've got the unit textbook on here, and I've got my lessons. So in the past, I would have created a PowerPoint, put the PowerPoint on the board, but now I've started putting lessons directly from OneNote as my sort of my interactive board. So in the lesson, this will be up on the screen, and we will go through. We have, again, we've got some videos embedded, and we've got the work that the pupils will be completing in their books, their tasks, and all the information just as I would in my PowerPoint, but instead I'm using OneNote. I've got a whole course done there, so I've got some links to BBC bite-sized tests to do a little start activity at the beginning of a lesson, and we've got a whole unit of work there, and all the pupils have this now forever, should they need to revise, or hopefully they will revise for their exams come next year. Another good tool is Wakelet as well. Okay, this is a Wakelet embedded into OneNote. So another sort of direction we've taken since sort of lockdown, we've come across this tool Wakelet, and I really urge you to have a look at it, sign up to it, because it's brilliant. It's a free tool, it's a content curation tool, and again it embeds directly into a OneNote page, so it brings everything together. So whereas before we were doing our lessons on the OneNote page itself, I now actually create my lessons on OneNote, and this was what would go on the board. Sorry, on OneNote, on Wakelet, and this is what would go on the board because it's a little bit more visual. As you can see, I've got my key content there, the objectives of the lesson, the starter activity, you've got a video of the recap, starter test there, and we have images, embedded videos, and all sorts of content to get through the lesson. So this would be on the board. And what I've started to do now is also embed a Microsoft form at the end of the lesson for people to do their plenaries, rather than us doing it at the end of the lesson because we're short on time at the moment. They're doing it in their own time. They can access this link from their phones, and they would do it perhaps on the way home if they're a good student, but certainly before the next lesson had started. So you've got great embeds there with sort of Wakelet, Flipgrid, and Sway being able to be directly embedded into OneNote itself. Teacher training. We were having IT students coming into school to do their teacher training. I was a P mentor, so we decided to set up the sort of replication of their paper file on notebooks so they could give work in rather than have to keep printing it out, because students are always complaining that they cost them so much to print all their resources out. So we did it digitally. So here you can see one of the pupil or the student's lessons. So I can look at this and I can give them feedback. You can send them to me anytime, and we can collaborate at any point. We can also share this with perhaps back at the university if we need to share any resources. We haven't got to wait until we actually see each other in person. Then we've got an example here of how we use OneNote to give feedback. So I've videoed the pupil's lesson or the student's lesson, put the images, the videos into the notebook, and then the student themselves has done some sort of self-reflection, self-evaluation, written some notes about what he feels from the video. Then we can discuss then our sort of mentor student, bring our thoughts together at the end. And this was actually seen as quite a positive use of technology, especially OneNote, to give feedback in an STEM report. We've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to give you a few little bonus features. Now, I'm not a maths teacher, but if I was a maths teacher, I would certainly use this feature. Okay, and I'd love to hear from anyone who's actually used this in a bit more detail. So OneNote can actually work out equations for you. So I've got a little simple equation on there. Click on the maths tool. As you can see, the equation comes up, and I'm going to select an action. I'm going to say solve for x. Okay, so it's worked out the answer. You can put that answer on the screen. You can also show the steps, which I think is a brilliant tool. Again, you can add that to the screen, and then even better, you can generate a practice quiz from Microsoft Forms. So we go 3 questions. I'm going to generate the quiz, and that will go to Microsoft Forms, do some sort of magic, and then embed that practice quiz directly onto the screen. As I said, I'm not a maths teacher, but I can imagine that would be quite a useful tool to have at your disposal. Here is Microsoft Forms. Again, it embeds directly onto the screen as a visual. So whenever we're sharing any information or we want any feedback from pupils, we do this during lessons, or if we want to get any whole school feedback, we put Microsoft Forms into Teams. We've got the view function as well, which is really handy, which has Immersive Reader built in. If you haven't heard about Immersive Reader, you should really check it out, because it can really help with your lower ability learners. It breaks the page down into text, and you can mess around with the text preferences, increasing the size, making work more accessible, changing the color of the background. You can even get it to show various grammar options. Okay, so Immersive Reader is a tool that's built into many sort of Microsoft applications, but it also is in OneNote as well, which is really, really, really helpful. The replay function, if you want to show step-by-step instructions, highlight what you want to replay, and it will play step-by-step as you go through the page. I haven't used that myself in a lesson, but I think some subjects might find that useful. The researcher, again, is another great tool. So if we're doing any coursework and if people want to find out some information, the researcher tab at the end here, you can type anything in. And it'll bring up any relevant topics. You can add that information directly to the page as evidence of research. Copying text and pictures is another great tool. You simply right click on a picture. If I want to get that text, I don't want to be typing it all out myself. If I want to recreate a sort of a worksheet or something like that, I just paste the text. I've copied all that text. It's a little bit messy at the moment, but I can tidy that up. I've taken all that text from the page there, which is great. Time saver. Office Lens, very quickly before we finish, is a great tool. I highly recommend you get Office Lens if you're using any sort of OneNote or Teams, because what it allows you to do is to embed documents, or more importantly for me, pictures, directly onto the screen. So if I take a picture of this screen here, very quickly, and then I export it to OneNote, that's how it works. So if you can imagine, I'm in a pre-lesson, need to gather some visual evidence. I just take a picture of the screen here, and it will send it directly to this notebook. At the moment, there we go. So we've got that picture there directly into the OneNote itself. So Office Lens is a tool I highly recommend you get on your phones. That's the app. If you want how the app looks like, it looks like that. Great for gathering evidence very quickly. If I'm out in the field, I need to get a picture of that for evidence for their files. Snap the picture, send it to OneNote. Pupils can access it later on. Whereas before we were taking pictures, taking them from the camera to the computer, putting them in a file. It's just a real great time saver. So that's a quick sort of tour through OneNote and how we've used it at our school. How we are using it. We are looking to push things forward next year even further, with all departments across the school using a notebook as their preferred sort of method for planning and sending out work to pupils. Okay, so I'd like to thank you for listening, and on the screen here I have my hub email and my Twitter handle if anyone would like to get in touch and wants any more information, any more detailed information on OneNote, or I'd like to find out how you're using OneNote in your schools. Please get in touch. Thank you very much.